here I am, one of 3 billion phones in the world. You and your fellow Brits clocked up 99 billion minutes of chat last year. I've changed the way you talk.
And I was talking even louder, I am talking now on my mobile.
And who you talk to.
And I looked at the screen and I actually said out loud, "You can get knotted. I don't want to talk to you today."
I can be a dangerous friend.
I've actually learned to really despise the mobile phone.
That destroyed me. Destruction through a mobile phone.
I share your every secret 24/7.
If it's on charge, it's on. If it's off like charge, it's still on. It's never off.
Then, after all that, you go and ditch me. I can't believe you've done this to me. You've dumped me and here I am running down my battery on a grubby floor. In Belgium, for Christ's sake. We used to be so close, you and me. I was your constant companion, your confidant, your right-hand man. Do you remember how we met? I watched you walk into the shop and I knew you were mine. I was sleek and silver, smooth to the touch. You cradled me to your cheek. We were made for each other.
Each mobile phone is unique. Each mobile phone is like an old pair of shoes, molded to your preferences. It is yours. What you use it for, how you use it, is exactly up to you.
I never move without my mobile phone. And I keep it just here, next to my heart. I love my mobile phone. I always have pink mobile phones.
Well, this particular phone comes in 2 parts, oddly enough. Oh, this is typical.
This phone is very sleek. It's lovely. It's, comfortable against the ear. It's got the best ringtones, best games.
Another message, text messaging, that's another nightmare of mine.
I couldn't think of a better phone.
Things used to be a bit more clumpy and dumpy between your kind and mine. But we worked hard. We lost ever more weight to make you love us more.
Well, the earliest phones were transportable phones, which essentially was a giant car battery with almost a car phone type handset on top. And most of the time you'd plug them in the car and watch the headlights dim when you switch them on to charge. In 1983 in the USA, they released the Motorola Dynatac phone, which cost $3,995. And the phone had shrunk in terms of the size and the technology involved in making it to mean that it was the first truly handheld portable phone. Flip-top phones started, first of all, in the very late 80s. They designed the flip mouthpiece. An interesting thing about this phone is that they give you the impression that there's some sort of microphone and electronics within the flip that actually work. But in fact, the microphone was fitted down here near the hinge, so the flip doesn't actually really do anything at all. The aerial in these early Motorola flip phones also, that was for show. They were dummies. They didn't do anything. They were fitted to the phones due to the results of early American focus groups who decided that all telephones should have a big aerial, like a walkie-talkie.
30 years ago, we didn't exist. Now there's one of us for every 2 of you, and every year another billion bright, shiny newcomers. We connect 4 billion people worldwide. The blank space is squeezed out so you can be in constant touch.
I never turn my mobile phone off. And indeed, the studies we've done show that by far most people never turn their mobile phone off, not even when they have sex.
Really?
Yeah. They put it on silent, but they never turn it off.
I don't think there's anywhere that I don't go without my phone. Nowhere, the toilet, everywhere.
When I don't have my phone, I have to steal my friend's phone and hold it in my hand as if like I have it.
In some way, it's become a control piece. You know, you didn't answer your phone. It's an accusation. You know, if you'd answered your phone, you would have known what I was going to do.
I put it on silent when I go to bed. I put it on silent.
Why don't you turn it off?
Because somebody might ring me.
We give you ubiquity. We give you constant availability. All that sheer din of chatter. But we end up here, at the industrial end of Belgium.
Welcome to Belgium. Welcome to Umicore, where we are recycling 5 million cell phones per year. Well, we are now sitting here at a pile of about 100,000 shredded cell phones. Cell phones that have been collected by a supplier of ours and transported from another continent to Belgium. This pile of 100,000 shredded cell phones contains 20 kilograms of silver, 1 kilogram of palladium and around 400 kilograms of copper.
Was that all I was to you? E-junk to be shredded and melted down? Did you know you held a whole world in your hand? Nickel from Chile, silver from Argentina, palladium from Siberia. But you never knew anything about me, did you? But I knew you. Intimately. I was always there. Master of the bedchamber. I was the custodian of all your secrets. I entrusted those in favour to speed dial. Together we were text addicts. You Brits. Really? Anything to avoid a conversation.
We are in the texting country of the world. I mean, we are one of the countries in the world that, at least of the ones we've studied, that has an extreme large amount of text compared to voice.
People send text because it's a cop-out for having a conversation with someone. The art of conversation is dead.
And they talk about 4 billion texts a year being sent around the UK.
4,505 messages in the last month and a half.
I don't like ringing my friends even. I'm very, very kind of, I don't know. And I think it's the thought that I don't want to disturb them, or am I going to disturb them in the middle of something? So I don't. I send them a nice little text message and then they can text me back. Or if they ring me, that's fine.
I'm going to get arthritis when I'm older. In my thumb, definitely. That's a definite.
Then the oldest story. Girl meets boy. Girl and boy swap numbers. Things move on in an agreeable sort of way. And then, indecently early the next day, the eager text. The inevitable postscript.
If someone says, I love you, and it's one X, you know that if you're together by the end of the month, there should be more than one X on there. And I've noticed it progresses as time goes on. You get more texts. And then as you're together like 3 or 4 months or whatever, then it can just go back to 1 or 2.
If you're used to receiving 1 or 2 X's, if there's 1 less or none at all, then yeah, absolutely. What does that mean? You're on the phone straight away. What have you done? Yeah.
And I've always got a habit of sending 2 texts whether I love them or not. And they're just friends, I just do that. And then I feel a bit guilty if I get 4 or 5, and I think, I better add a few more, and, you know.
Once you'd met him, things started to change between us. From then on, you were preoccupied and I was merely a go-between. A gooseberry, while you made a fool of yourself. But love is blind, and you were heedless to the looks you were getting. On and on you droned.
When people talk to other people, if they don't hold eye contact with other people, they tend to feel that nobody else is aware of what they're doing. It's like when you're a bit drunk and you get that sort of tunnel vision thing and you're chatting to your mate. You're chatting to your mate in the pub, and as far as you're concerned, it's just you and them. But all of a sudden you're talking louder and louder and louder as you get drunker and drunker, and then everybody else becomes aware of what you're saying, but you think you're just talking to them.
One of the ideas that's been put forward is that the reason we are so annoyed with people talking on the phone in a public space is because we only hear half of the conversation. If we heard both sides, we would be very keen. It's because we get annoyed that we have to sit and guess what they're talking about.
There's got to be different categories of mobile phone users. So you've got the show-off. You've got the, oh, look, I am, Ted from Washington, and I've got a huge schooner in the bay. You've got that sort of fella.
I think they become oblivious to it. They switch off into the outside world.
Actually talking to the people down the phone, giving bank details and dates of birth and that, and you're thinking, do you realise what you've just done in public, giving all that information away?
And then you've got the darling, I love you, and the last night.
In rush hour, there was a guy telling his mate about the size of this woman's boobies and what a goer she was. And I looked up at him and he went, I'll call you back. That bloke I went out with last night, did you hear about him? Yeah, well, he ain't that good, And you think, do you really have to talk about it?
And then you've got the practical, I'll be home at 5 o'clock, make sure you've put the meat in.
Thing is about you English, you'll listen to so much and merely tut-tut. But after a while, you'll finally boil over.
He would ring his wife and give her an update of which station we were in. Now, I didn't mind the first 3, but after 11, I was, like the rest of the passengers, somewhat frustrated and bemused, and can only hope that his wife was hard of hearing or deaf, actually. To get a long story short, he would stop and we would be in places such as Three Bridges, and he would say, "Hello, darling, it's me. I should probably be there about 7:30, but I might be a bit late. There's quite a lot of passengers getting on this train. I've counted 15 to date, but there could be a few more, I don't know."
I got on the bus and I quickly phoned work, and I was saying, "Oh, can I speak to so-and-so? I need to get through to him." And while they were trying to put me through, I had a tap on my shoulder by this man who was, I'd say, late 50s, 60s, and he said, "Turn that phone off and don't be so rude on the bus."
Anyway, the waiter came past with a drinks trolley. I said, "Can I have a small bottle of brandy, please? Because that guy's going to drive me nuts in a minute."
And I just was so angry. But, I think I told him a few words where to go. And I said, "No, I've got to get off this phone a minute," and I got off the phone and I thought, not having it. We're going to phone back because I need to.
As I was standing to get off, this man was glaring at me like that. And I don't know, I can't swear, so it's not going to sound the same, but I was on the phone, I stuck in my ear, and he just said, "Thanks for effing and, enlightening us, you effing B," And Margot goes, "What's that?" I goes, "Call you back." And I put the phone down, and he goes, "Yes, you effing B." And he didn't abbreviate. He was just, and he looked mad, and he just says, "I'm going to slit your throat," And I don't know what happened then, because then I suddenly went, "Oh, shut up." And then he ran off, and then I ran off, because then I really got scared, because I think that was just a reaction.
I had to say something, and I said, "Look, I don't know why you had to say what you said every single station we stopped at, but why didn't you just say to your wife, 'I'll be there at 8:30? He said, "Well, it's her birthday, I've got to take her to dinner, blah, 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 we've booked a table." I said, "Fine. Why did you have to actually say, after every station, where we were? And why did you have to mention the passengers, and why did you have to announce delays on the train? It's just driving me nuts."
Anyway, I did phone back, and I was going, "I'm just looking for this man who doesn't want me to speak on my phone," and I was looking at the back of the bus, and I was talking even louder, "I am talking now on my mobile."
You put me through all that, and then you consign me to scrap at the biggest, hottest smelter in Europe. In our time together, I gave you 1,500 hours of chat. I sent 73,000 texts for you. And I end up here, in 2,000 degrees of heat to be plundered for profit. My metals skimmed off a red-hot soup.
What's in those buckets behind us? Well, in the buckets behind us, you can find lead, you can find aluminum, iron, silica, zinc, and so on.
I had even more valuable ingredients you never suspected.
Well, the precious metals can mainly be found on the circuit board and in the connectors. They increase conductivity and that they can resist rust corrosion.
Me, I was laced with precious metal, sparkling in a precise instrument. You and your kind, you're blunt, pink, soft, clumsy. You infect everything with your virus of human error. You press the wrong buttons, you fire off hot, ill-judged words. Everything was tickety-boo for you until that night. Then, so what if he'd had a couple of drinks and missent the text which ended up by your bedside? So what if it showed he was still in touch with his ex, still sending her smoochy texts at 1 a.m? And so began the long night of doubt. But you weren't the first to feel the dark side of texting.
You do it and you see the name, you go, oh no, I don't want to send it to that person, but there's no way of stopping it. It just says sending, you know, and you're like, oh, you can't get it back.
I have arguments via text message because I'm not a very aggressive person. I'm very, very passive. I don't like having arguments. If somebody does something to annoy me, I will quite often send a text message and say exactly how I feel.
I was seeing a guy and we finished and I was very upset for about 2 years about it, really. And I know when I went out one night, I was in Bagley's, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, we was all dancing and I went into the toilet so no one knew, and I was texting him saying, I know we haven't spoken for a few while, but you know, I still love you and I don't know what's happened between us, but I think we should just be friends or whatever. And then nothing's happened, no response, you know, well, it's 3 in the morning, he might be asleep, you know, but I'm not thinking that. And then afterwards it's you, you know, how dare you ignore me, I can't believe you're ignoring me, and you have all this front to do it.
If I'd rung them, I would have chickened out. I would have just gone, yeah, it's all right, I don't mind, it's fine. But I know that if I'm really annoyed, I should tell them. So I tell them in a text message.
It's an amplifier. So if you have a very intimate and trusting relationship, then it can amplify it. If you're on the verge of suicide or divorce or breaking up, then I think it could also amplify that. Because of course, the problem with these 160 characters or less is that they don't tell the whole story, and even sometimes they can tell a story between the lines that might not even be there.
With that text, the doubt was sown, wasn't it? What was bright and silvery became dark and ominous. Who's in touch with who, where, and when? Constantly available, constantly in touch. You had to know, didn't you? So I wasn't wholly surprised when you crossed that line to delve into the secret world of someone else's phone. Typical boy's toy. Loads of features, all fur coat and no knickers. And there, in the photos, you see her. Picture taken the wrong side of midnight.
I have to say that this is the one and only time I actually went through anybody's phone. And again, he was somebody else who always had his phone with him, so it was quite hard to do that. But on this one particular occasion, he left his phone behind while he was off walking the dog, so I did have a look through. I looked through the messages and I couldn't find any incriminating evidence. But in his templates, being the creature of habit that he was, there was the template to me which said, "Good night, gorgeous," but there was another one in there which was "Good night, beautiful," which of course he would never send to me because he never ever called me that. He always called me gorgeous. So I guess that template was going across to the woman across the road.
I got the impression she'd met someone from the way she was speaking, so sneakily, I went and had a look at her mobile phone just on the off chance, and spotted quite a graphic sort of text message from him to her. This continued over, I'd say, the space of about 3 months, that I was checking her phone, just, reading some of the texts that were on there, and the whole time feeling quite guilty about it.
I've looked at the number and I thought, no, I don't know this. And so just out of curiosity, I sent a text message I mean, I had a feeling that this was not right, but I thought I'm going to be calm. And I remember shaking so much that I had to hold the phone with 2 hands to send this text message which said, "Hi, how are you?" And the reply came back, "Oh, hello, not heard from you for a while." And then I said, right, okay, calm, deal with this. "Would you like to come for dinner?" I text. And again, I'm having to hold my arms on the worktop. And the reply came back, "Oh, yes, please, I'd love to come to dinner. That would be great. How about Thursday? It's Tuesday. You're a bit quick, aren't you? You know." So finally, to really make sure, I then text, "Would you like a cuddle?" And it came back, "Oh, yes, please, Hugsy." Hugsy?
I just sort of felt there was such a guilt about sort of that invading someone's privacy and looking at their phone that I sort of thought, if I tell her what I know, it makes me look bad. It makes me look like, I mean, I have been reading her text, I have been going through her things. So I didn't like that aspect at all. So the guilt just sort of kept me quiet, if anything.
And what had he said to the woman?
Oh, it's wonderful. It's a wonderful romance. He told her he was a water gypsy and lived on his boat.
So you wait and you wonder, and you fume and you fret, and you pace and you postpone. But the pressure inside your head means there comes a time when you make the call, when you confront.
I told her then that I'd been checking her phone for 3 months. Yeah, it was a shock.
What did she say?
I mean, immediately she admitted what had gone on. She said it was over. So, I mean, I won't go into all the details, but, you know, we talked it over. It was quite tough emotionally.
I did take about 4 days to pluck up courage to confront him with it, mostly because I thought he'd be quite affronted that I had gone through his mobile phone, but no, he was caught, well and truly caught. So that was the end of that relationship.
I served him his dinner, gave him a drink, and I just said very quietly, I said, "Now listen to me. I'm going to tell you this, I'm going to repeat myself, but if you ever do anything like this again, I'm not going to come for you. I'm going to go after the woman. And anything that happens to the woman is going to be your responsibility." And then I just left it. Now, I would not have touched another woman. I would probably just have kneed him next time and thrown him out. But the point was, it scared him enough to behave for another 3 years. And then he went off with someone else.
But then about a month later, after this had all come out, I would call it habit, I don't know what, I thought, things just aren't quite right. And I checked her phone again, and the text had been continuing.
I mean, how many men are sneaking off to the bathroom at midnight and just, you know, texting quietly to somebody afar?
In terms of infidelity, the mobile phone, of course, can equally play the role of enabling you by having a spare phone to lead a double life much more effectively. At the same time as if that phone is found, then it is a gigantic hair on your lapel. Obviously, because there's a story that you can see all messages, and there's, of course, in our studies we have found that in several occasions people have been caught out and have, of course, indeed, instead of hiring a private detective, you just go and read the text messages.
I could have told you the phone isn't the best way to have these conversations. I was just a go-between, but it was me you cast aside to begin my strange and lonely last journey. You hurled me into a watery oblivion. You know I don't swim. Me and water just don't mix. But you abandoned me, leaving me to sleep with the fishes. Here I came, still dripping, to an alleyway off Holborn, a knacker's yard of phones rejected, ill-used and battered.
We get 70 to 80,000 a month at the moment, but that's building up quite quickly. So we'd anticipate by the end of the year getting 90 to 100,000 each month.
You were heedless and far away. In my distress and with my last breaths, I tried calling out to you.
We get 200 or 300 alarms going off each day, and it can get very annoying, obviously, because they're going off every day and they might be buried at the bottom of a box. So we spend a fair amount of time scrabbling around trying to find these alarms. About 80% we try and resell to markets all over the world, predominantly Africa, Southeast Asia, places like that. But the phones that we can't resell, which amount to about 10 to 15%, if it's smashed up, we get quite a few that have been bitten by dogs and carried around, a lot of water damage stuff. So ultimately, yeah, they will be recycled and taken apart and the bits recovered.
Water damaged stuff, my arse. Shunted here, shivering and in need of warmth. I found it here, in the fiery crucible where my last secrets could be liberated. Hot tears I'd wept for you and our lost life together. Bitter tears too for the way you cast me aside as junk, when I was worth so much more, because I was golden.
How many mobile phones to make that amount of gold?
500 tons of mobile phones.
How much gold is there? What is it worth?
Well, this is 150 kilograms. In value, you're talking about the value of about £3.5 million sterling. We are mining, we are recovering what has already been mined in the past, and we are putting it back on the market. And quite often this gold will be used again to produce mobile phones.
And so I have become eternal, alchemized on and on in an ever vaster merry-go-round of mobiles. I've changed you and the way you live forever. Endless connectivity. For me, it's just dot to dot. For you, it's a global mobile monster eating up your time on this earth.
It sort of nibbles away at our attention, and all the constant email, instant messaging, text messages, mobile phone calls. Suddenly we have no attention left to ourselves, and we have no time to just chill out and be quiet. And I think that is the discussion we're undergoing.
There is a sort of a niceness to not being contacted, to sort of be out of the reach of other people and just have a bit of space and time to yourself.
Now they've created it, it's like a monster you can't get rid of. Everyone has to have one now.
I think it's an enemy. I do feel as though it's just such an intrusion.
Can you imagine giving an exercise to everybody? No mobile phones for 7 days and 7 nights. You know, a lot of people would just implode.